feel like I feel like sexy ends when I'm not sexiest man alive anymore. I don't feel like it exists anymore. I feel like it's over whenever I was sexiest man alive.
Blake Shelton, the name that has become a symbol of modern American country music, is remembered not only for his warm baritone voice and sweet hits like Austin, Honey Bee, and God's Country, but also for the image of a funny cowboy who sat in the Voice's red chair for more than a decade. With his checkered shirt, cowboy boots, and ever-ready smile, he made audiences believe his life was nothing but cheerful days, untouched by hardship. But behind that smile are scars that never fully fade. A childhood marked by the loss of his brother in a tragic accident, marriages that ended amid whispers of betrayal, and long nights of depression after his divorce from Miranda Lambert. All of it once pulled Blake down into hell, as he himself admitted. And then, unexpectedly, a woman from a completely different world, Stefani, stepped in, bringing with her a healing he never imagined. Blake's journey is a story of contrasts. From a small-town boy in Oklahoma, knocking on the doors of Nashville record labels, to a multi-million-dollar TV superstar, then walking away from Hollywood lights to return to his ranch, his family, and simple music. At 48, he is no longer just a country star, but proof that behind cheerful love songs and loud laughter lies a heart once deeply wounded, yet still brave enough to love again. Early life. Blake Tollison Shelton was born on June 18, 1976, in Ada, Oklahoma, a small Midwestern town of just over 17,000 people. Ada had no bright stage lights or record labels, but it was rich in community spirit. For Blake, childhood there meant a mix of family love, the simplicity of working-class life, and the sound of country music flowing from an old kitchen radio. His father, Richard Shelton, a quiet man who sold used cars, had a deep passion for music. He wasn't a musician, but he loved to sing and cherished traditional country ballads. He was the first to plant in Blake a love for storytelling through song. His mother, Dorothy Shelton, owned a small beauty salon in town. Always optimistic and devoted to her family, she was also the one who believed so strongly in her son's talent that she encouraged him to pursue music despite the risks. From an early age, Blake had a strange fascination with melodies. He would listen over and over to songs by Merle Haggard and George Jones on the radio, trying to sing along. The turning point came at age 12, when his uncle gave him an old guitar and patiently taught him a few chords. The skinny, shy boy was instantly hooked. Within months, Blake was spending hours practicing, inventing tunes, and mumbling out his first original lyrics. At 15, he completed his first song. It wasn't professional, but it proved that he didn't just love music, he wanted to create it. A year later, at 16, Blake won the Denbo Diamond Award, a prize honoring outstanding young talent in Oklahoma. It was a major milestone, undeniable proof that a boy from Ada could step onto a bigger stage. Yet his childhood was also marked by a pain that never healed. In 1990, when Blake was just 14, his older brother Richie died in a car accident. The shock haunted him for life. His father told him words Blake would never forget. "You'll never get over this. You'll only learn to live with it." That lesson proved true. The grief never faded. It only transformed into music. Years later, Blake and Miranda Lambert co-wrote Over You, a song steeped in Richie's memory, which went on to win CMA Song of the Year. It was proof that pain, too, can become legacy. At school, Blake was known as the funny, easygoing kid who always made others laugh. But behind that playful exterior was an unusual determination. the dream of making it to Nashville, the place where every country star began. Unlike other teens who just wanted fun or college plans, he had already chosen his path. He would become a professional country singer. Right after graduating high school, at just 17, Blake left Ada for Nashville. He carried with him his wooden guitar, a little money saved up, and all the faith of his mother. The first years were brutal, sleeping on friends' floors, taking odd jobs, writing songs for other artists, and singing in bars just to get by. But his persistence made people in the business remember him as the most stubborn kid in Nashville, a boy who refused to quit, knocking on one record label's door after another. Those early years, shaped by family love, the tragedy of loss, and sheer grit in chasing a dream, formed the Blake Shelton the world would later know. A country star who seemed unshakable, yet deep inside always carried a tender, vulnerable side. And that, more than anything, is what made his music feel so honest and capable of touching millions of hearts. Early career. When Blake Shelton left Ada for Nashville at 17, all he had was an old guitar, a handful of rough demos, and an unshakable belief that his voice could change his life. But Nashville, the city where everyone carried dreams of stardom, was not so quick to embrace him. He slept on friends' floors, wrote songs for hire, sang in bars, and persisted so relentlessly that people in the business began calling him the most stubborn kid in Nashville. The turning point came when veteran producer Bobby Braddock discovered him. Braddock recognized in Blake a voice that didn't need to show off, but made people fall silent and listen. It was Braddock who helped secure Blake's first record deal with Giant Records. In 2001, Blake released his debut single, Austin. The song seemed simple, a man leaving messages on an answering machine for his former lover, but carried the aching weight of lost love. At a time when cell phones were taking over, the image of a missed call became a perfect metaphor for unfinished relationships. Blake's warm, unvarnished vocals made listeners believe it was his own story. Austin stayed at number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart for 5 straight weeks, turning him from an unknown into Nashville's newest sensation. That success paved the way for his debut album, Blake Shelton, where he proved he was not just a one-hit wonder. Songs like All Over Me showed his knack for blending pop country touches with raw authenticity. Most notably, Ole Red, the tale of a prisoner outsmarting a guard dog to escape, became one of his signature hits. More than just entertainment, it showcased his gift for storytelling through music, a quality that would later define his career. In 2003, his sophomore album, The Dreamer, was released, featuring the haunting ballad, The Baby. The song tells of the youngest son in a family arriving too late to see his mother before she passes away. With Blake's choked emotional delivery, it became one of the most heartbreaking songs of his early career, striking a deep chord with listeners. For many, it echoed Blake's own grief over the death of his brother Richie, a pain that silently shaped his artistry. By 2004, Blake Shelton's Barn and Grill cemented his position with tracks like Some Beach, a witty, light-hearted country tune about wanting to escape life's daily frustrations for a little peace. Its humor reflected Blake's real-life personality, a man who used laughter to ease pain. That same year, his cover of Conway Twitty's Goodbye Time showed he could honor country's legacy while breathing new life into its classics. Between 2001 and 2006, Blake not only built his reputation on hit singles, but also carved out a clear identity, a deep, resonant voice telling simple, honest stories that blended sorrow with humor. People began to call him the cowboy storyteller, a nickname that captured the way he didn't just sing, but passed along pieces of his own life through his songs. If Austin was his declaration of lost love, Old Red his proof of wit, and the baby his emotional scar, together they laid the foundation for a career that would last decades. By staying rooted in country tradition while adding humor and a relatable, everyday touch, Blake Shelton quickly became one of Nashville's brightest young stars. More importantly, he had crossed the hardest threshold, from a small-town nobody in Ada to a singer embraced by millions of Americans. Career success. After nearly a decade of building his name with early hits, between 2010 and 2020, Blake Shelton stepped firmly into the peak of his career, becoming not only a pillar of country music, but also a pop culture figure recognized by millions of television viewers. The year 2010 marked a milestone when he was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, an honor reserved only for artists of lasting influence. That moment didn't just acknowledge his talent. It affirmed that the boy from Ada, Oklahoma, had officially become part of country music history. Everything changed with the release of Red River Blue in 2011. It was Blake's first album to reach #1 on the Billboard 200, proving that his appeal stretched far beyond country audiences to mainstream listeners. The record produced some of his most defining hits. Honey Bee, a cheerful, playful anthem considered America's summer love song. God Gave Me You, a heartfelt ballad of gratitude that became a wedding favorite, and at the time, Blake's own love letter to Miranda Lambert. The album also included Drink on It and Over, both of which topped the charts, earning Blake multiple awards, including Album of the Year at major country ceremonies. Success followed with Based on a True Story, 2013, which showcased a seamless blend of traditional country and modern pop, selling over 1 million copies and earning RIAA Platinum status. Boys Round Here, with its cheeky refrain, Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit, became a cultural hit, bringing Blake closer to younger audiences. In contrast, Mine Would Be You offered a heartbreaking ballad about lost love, revealing the emotional depth in his voice. This album helped him secure further honors, including Male Vocalist of the Year from both CMA and ACM, solidifying his standing as one of Nashville's leading voices. In 2016, after the emotional shock of his divorce from Miranda, Blake released If I'm Honest, perhaps his most personal album. She's Got Away with Words featured biting wordplay, widely interpreted as reflecting the pain of his broken marriage. On the other hand, Came Here to Forget radiated a desire to heal and hinted at the new love blossoming with Gwen Stefani. Selling over 150,000 copies in its first week, the album proved audiences connected not only with Blake's humor but also with his vulnerability and honesty. Blake also cemented his status as a live performer through large-scale tours. The Friends and Heroes Tour launched in 2019 and repeated several times through 2025 stood as proof of the enduring love fans held for him. These shows didn't just deliver familiar hits, they paid tribute to Blake's friends and heroes, including Trace Adkins, Martina McBride, and John Anderson. With a down-to-earth style, humor, and audience connection, he made each performance feel less like a commercial concert and more like an intimate gathering. Another cornerstone of Blake Shelton's fame was his role as a coach on The Voice. From 2011 to 2023, he sat in the red chair, for 23 seasons, winning 9 times, a record no one has yet broken. While his quick wit brought countless laughs, he also proved his dedication by mentoring artists such as Cassidy Pope, Danielle Bradbury, and Todd Tillman into stardom. With earnings of $13 to $15 million per season, he became one of the highest-paid TV personalities in America, but more importantly, the show transformed him from a country singer into a household cultural icon. Alongside television, Blake continued releasing successful albums. Texoma Shore, 2017, with the hit I'll Name the Dogs, earned ACM's Single of the Year. Fully Loaded, God's Country, 2019, marked a powerful return with God's Country, a fierce anthem infused with faith and the spirit of the land, which won ACM's Single of the Year in 2020 and earned him another Grammy nomination. The song became his new declaration, an artist inseparably tied to his Oklahoma roots. In 2021, he released Body Language, featuring Happy Anywhere, a duet with Gwen Stefani created during the COVID-19 pandemic. Beyond being a sweet love song, it captured the couple's simple joy of being together anywhere, whether in Los Angeles, on the Oklahoma ranch, or in the solitude of lockdown days. Throughout his career, Blake Shelton has earned more than 10 CMA awards, 6 ACM awards, multiple People's Choice Awards, and dozens of Grammy nominations. In 2017, People magazine even named him Sexiest Man Alive, a surprising title that nonetheless reflected his wide mainstream appeal. Looking back, Blake Shelton's success reads like a journey marked by milestones. Austin opened the door. Red River Blue launched him to the top, based on a true story, expanded his reach. If I'm Honest documented his personal pain, and God's Country and Happy Anywhere captured his maturity, rootedness, and love. Each album, each hit mirrors a piece of his life: love, loss, humor, and faith. That honesty, paired with his captivating stage presence, has carried Blake Shelton beyond the boundaries of country music, making him one of the most beloved American artists of the 21st century. Personal life. Before Blake Shelton became a multi-million-dollar country music star with chart-topping hits, he had a simple, tender, yet bittersweet love story with Kaynette Williams, the first woman who entered his life as an anchor. Blake and Kaynette met in Ada, Oklahoma, when they were still teenagers. Kaynette had just graduated from high school, while Blake was the tall, lanky boy who always showed up at local fairs with a wooden guitar in hand. There were no stage lights, no reporters chasing him. Their romance began with quiet walks through the small town and evenings when Kaynette cheered from the audience as Blake sang at school or church. To her, he wasn't a star. He was just a young man with big dreams and a genuine heart. When Blake decided to leave Ada for Nashville to chase his career, Kaynette didn't hold him back. She became his silent companion. She believed in him when he was still an unknown singer knocking on publishing house doors and barely scraping by. That unwavering support led Blake to later admit, "If it hadn't been for her, I don't know if I would have had the strength to hang on in Nashville." In 2003, after Austin made waves on the charts, Blake began attracting attention. He and Kaynette chose to marry in a small ceremony in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was modest and intimate, with only their closest loved ones. Blake wore a simple suit, Kaynette a pure white gown, and they exchanged vows against a quiet mountain backdrop. Blake once said in an interview, "She was the one who kept me grounded in the middle of all the chaos of a career just beginning." But that fragile happiness was soon tested. After the wedding, Blake's career exploded. Endless tours, long recording sessions, and invitations to television appearances. Meanwhile, Kay, a woman who cherished peace and small-town rhythms, was left behind. She had grown up with Ada's quiet pace, but now faced the pressure of bright lights and long stretches without her husband at home. Tensions began to surface in small ways. Unanswered phone calls, dinners scheduled then canceled, and jealousy sparked by rumors of Blake's closeness with female colleagues. In rare comments later, Kay described a distance that grew beyond geography. He started to belong to another world, one I couldn't enter. Arguments became frequent, and loneliness weighed heavily on the young wife. In 2006, she filed for divorce, citing inappropriate marital conduct. The press speculated Blake had not been entirely faithful, but both parties stayed silent, leaving behind a cloud of unanswered questions. Blake later admitted he was too young and unprepared to balance marriage and career. "I married my best friend, not my true love." That remark, both candid and painful, revealed his awareness of the immaturity and clumsiness that defined his first relationship. The marriage lasted just 3 years, produced no children, and ended quietly. Kay left Nashville for Kansas, choosing a private life far away from the spotlight. Blake pressed on with his dazzling career, but carried with him a lingering memory of his first love, a reminder that fame's glow can sometimes cost the most precious parts of one's private life. If Blake Shelton's marriage to Kay Williams was a quiet opening chapter, then his love with Miranda Lambert was the fiercest ballad of his life. It began with an irresistible spark, burned brightly under Nashville's spotlight, and then suddenly shattered, leaving behind an emptiness that took years for both to heal. Blake met Miranda in 2005 when they performed "You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma" together at CMT's 100 Greatest Duets concert. It was just a televised performance, but everyone present that night felt a strange spark. On stage, Blake was still married to Kay Williams, while Miranda was engaged to songwriter Jeff Allen. Yet the way their eyes locked, the way their voices blended, left even them unsettled. Blake later admitted, "I was in love with Miranda from the moment I saw her, even though I knew I shouldn't be." Miranda, too, confessed, "I knew there was something different, but I tried to keep my distance because he wasn't free." After Blake divorced Kay in 2006, he and Miranda officially began dating. They didn't hide it, walking red carpets hand in hand, performing duets in concerts, even sharing passionate kisses on stage. Nashville dubbed them the new power couple of country music. Both of their careers soared in parallel. Miranda won acclaim with her rebellious, fiery albums, while Blake scored hit after hit on country radio. In 2011, after 5 years of dating, they married on a ranch in Bourne, Texas. The wedding was pure country. Miranda wore her mother's wedding dress, Blake donned a cowboy hat, and strapped on a decorative gun. Guests were limited to close friends and family, yet the entire Nashville scene seemed to erupt in joy at their union. Blake called Miranda his true companion, while Miranda gushed, "He makes me laugh even when I want to cry." For the first few years, their marriage seemed like paradise. They wrote songs together, and Over You, inspired by the death of Blake's brother Richie, not only won the CMA Song of the Year in 2012, but also became one of the most moving ballads of the decade. They frequently performed side by side, appeared lovingly on red carpets, and became the symbol of country music romance. But beneath the bright lights, cracks began to show. Blake's demanding schedule with The Voice in Los Angeles pulled him away from Nashville, while Miranda remained rooted in tours and her ranch life in Oklahoma. Physical distance turned into emotional distance. Rumors spread that Miranda was involved with singer Chris Young, while Blake was linked to Katie Groves and others. American tabloids relentlessly fueled speculation with sensational headlines, leaving fans wondering, could country's golden couple still trust each other? Behind the scenes, tension grew. One insider revealed Miranda felt abandoned, while Blake believed his wife couldn't adapt to Hollywood's rhythm. Arguments became frequent, time apart grew longer, and their joint appearances dwindled. Duets disappeared. Shared photos on social media became rare. Outwardly, they maintained a facade of happiness, but within the industry, everyone knew the undercurrent was rising. On July 20th, 2015, Blake and Miranda shocked the world by announcing their divorce after 4 years of marriage. Their press statement was just a few lines. "This is not the future we envisioned, and with heavy hearts, we move forward separately." No public tears, no lengthy press conferences, just a cold silence that stunned the country music world. Afterward, both chose to process their heartbreak through music. Miranda released "The Weight of These Wings," filled with dark, aching songs like Vice and Tin Man, laying bare her shattered heart. Blake responded with "If I'm Honest," including the bitter "she's got away with words," alluding to betrayal, lies, and irreparable disappointment. He told Billboard bluntly, "At that time, I was in the middle of hell. Everything inside me had fallen apart. What once seemed like a perfect marriage ended in pain, rumors, and mistrust." For Miranda, it left a scar carved deep into her otherwise blazing career. For Blake, it was the hardest fall of his life, plunging him into loneliness and disorientation. Yet in those darkest days, on the coaching panel beside him at The Voice, sat another woman, Gwen Stefani, who herself was emerging from a broken marriage. And from there, a new chapter in Blake's life quietly began. If Miranda Lambert left Blake Shelton with a wound that refused to heal, Gwen Stefani was the one who gently placed her hand on it. Not to cover it, but to help him learn to accept and to heal. Their love story did not begin with a lightning strike, but with empathy between two broken hearts. In 2014, Gwen joined The Voice as a coach, sitting alongside Adam Levine, Pharrell Williams, and Blake Shelton. At the time, Gwen was a pop rock superstar and fashion icon from California, while Blake was the down-to-earth country cowboy from Oklahoma. They seemed to share nothing in common beyond playful banter on TV, but fate intervened. In 2015, both endured the collapse of their marriages. Blake had just divorced Miranda Lambert, while Gwen was devastated to discover her husband, Gavin Rossdale, had been unfaithful with the family nanny for years. Behind the scenes of The Voice, conversations began. At first, just casual check-ins, then long emails pouring out their pain, loss, and disorientation. Blake later recalled, "At that time, I was completely lost. Gwen was the first person who really listened to me without judgment." Gwen admitted, "When I thought I was completely broken, Blake made me laugh again." From those shattered pieces, a new relationship took root. In November 2015, Gwen's representatives confirmed they were dating. The world was stunned. A country cowboy and a pop-punk queen, Hollywood's strangest pairing? Yet the sincerity of their bond quickly won people over. This wasn't a PR stunt or a flashy romance. It was two people finding each other in the ashes and rekindling light together. Blake didn't rush. He learned to become part of Gwen's life, not just with her, but with her 3 sons, Kingston, Zuma, and Apollo. A man who had never had children began with small gestures, taking them fishing, playing Lego, teaching them to ride horses on the Oklahoma ranch. He never tried to be the perfect dad, only to show up patiently, allowing the boys to accept him as family. Gwen once said tearfully, "Blake has never been a father, but he understands that to be a good man, he has to learn how to be a good father." Their love wasn't loud, but it was enduring. In 2019, they released the duet "Nobody But You," a public declaration that they couldn't live without each other. The song climbed to the top of both country and pop charts, proof that what once seemed improbable had become a sweet reality. This was followed by "Happy Anywhere" and "Purple Irises," songs that were not just music, but pages from their love diary. On July 3, 2021, Blake and Gwen married in an intimate ceremony at his 1,600-acre Oklahoma ranch. Blake personally built a small stone chapel in the fields for the wedding. Gwen wore a Vera Wang gown with her sons' names embroidered on the hem. Blake serenaded her with "We Can Reach the Stars," a song he had never shared with anyone else. In that moment, they weren't 2 public figures. They were simply a man and a woman who had found safety in each other's arms. Afterward, they chose a simple life. Between flights to Los Angeles, they spent most of their time on the Oklahoma ranch. Blake tending land and livestock, Gwen and her boys embracing country living. For them, happiness wasn't red carpets or flashing lights, but evenings around the fire, singing together and watching the children grow. Blake once said, "I don't have biological children, but being a stepdad to those boys, that's what I'm most grateful for in my life." To him, Gwen wasn't just love, but salvation, the one who helped him rise from ruin and start anew. Shelton didn't just become Gwen Stefani's husband. He also stepped fully into the role of stepfather to Kingston, Zuma, and Apollo. For a man who had never had children of his own, it was a daunting task. But Blake considered it a gift. He admitted, "I don't have biological kids, but being a stepdad to those boys, that's the greatest blessing of my life." He began with the smallest things, building Lego sets with Apollo, teaching Zuma how to tie fishing lines, taking Kingston horseback riding on the ranch. Patient and steady, he chose simply to be present, building trust day by day. Rare photos at birthdays or school events revealed a different Blake Shelton. Far from the stage, just a simple man standing proudly among other parents. Gwen once said, "Blake has never been a father, but he understands that being a good man starts with being a good father." Yet, just as happiness seemed complete, rumors began circulating in 2024 to 2025 about cracks in their marriage. Outlets like People and TMZ reported that Blake and Gwen were no longer living together full-time. Blake preferred life on his expansive Oklahoma ranch, creating music at a slower pace, while Gwen remained tied to Los Angeles, the hub of fashion and entertainment where she pursued her own projects. Geographic distance slowly turned into emotional distance. Sources suggested Blake longed for quiet country rhythms while Gwen struggled to leave California's fast-paced lifestyle. Speculation of a silent separation spread, with whispers that divorce could follow if the divide persisted. Still, neither has confirmed anything. They avoid the press, rarely appear together, and their silence only fuels more speculation. Amid the noise, one thing remains certain. Blake continues to cherish his bond with Gwen's 3 sons. he often speaks of them with pride and gratitude, as if this role is his true anchor after years of storms. Whatever the future holds for his marriage to Gwen, his years as a stepfather have already become a defining chapter, transforming Blake Shelton from a man who once lived for the stage into someone who has found his greatest meaning in the simple moments of family life. Wealth, lifestyle, business. Blake Shelton is not only one of the most successful country voices of his generation, but also one of the wealthiest artists who has mastered the art of turning fame into lasting fortune. As of 2025, his net worth is estimated between $120 and $150 million, and combined with Gwen Stefani, that figure nears $300 million, placing them among the most powerful couples in American entertainment. Music remains Blake's primary source of income, more than 28. One singles on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart, dozens of best-selling albums, and tours like the Friends and Heroes tour that consistently sell out, particularly across the South and Midwest, where fans see him as one of their own. Each tour generates tens of millions in ticket sales, along with massive profits from merchandise and personal branding. Another substantial revenue stream came from his role on The Voice, where Blake served as a coach for over 20 seasons. Earning between $13 to $15 million per season, he ranked among the highest-paid television personalities in America. Between 2011 and 2023 alone, his income from The Voice surpassed $250 million, not to mention how the show turned him into a household name for global audiences. Beyond music and television, Blake expanded into food and entertainment with his Ole Red restaurant and bar chain. Locations in Nashville, Orlando, Gatlinburg, and even in his hometown of Tishomingo, Oklahoma, quickly became destinations for country fans eager to enjoy both Southern-style cuisine and live music. Designed with a distinctly Southern flair, Ole Red is more than a commercial venture. It's also an open stage for rising artists. The chain brings in tens of millions annually and reinforces Blake's reputation as a savvy entrepreneur who knows how to turn his personal brand into a real-world experience. He has also landed major endorsement deals with Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Gildan, and especially Smithworks Vodka, where he is positioned as the country soul of the brand. These contracts often tied into music promotion campaigns, delivering both financial returns and brand synergy. Despite his wealth, Blake has remained closely tied to land and nature. His 1,600-acre 10-point ranch in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, is not only his main residence, but also his refuge. There, he built a stone chapel where he and Gwen married in 2021, and he often shares glimpses of his daily life: horseback riding, fishing, gardening, and fixing barns. To Blake, the ranch isn't a luxury symbol, it's a part of my blood. He also owns a lakeside estate on Lake Texoma, used both for retreats and as a personal recording studio. Friends call it the place where Blake writes his truest songs. In 2020, he and Gwen purchased a $13.2 million modern mansion in Encino, Los Angeles, a compromise between his Oklahoma roots and her California lifestyle. However, following rumors of marital strain, Blake has reportedly spent little time there. In his garage, Blake doesn't favor flashy supercars. Instead, he remains loyal to classic American vehicles and practical pickup trucks. His Dodge Ram 2500 and mud-stained Chevrolet Silverado from the ranch are fan-favorite sights. Gwen once gifted him a vintage red pickup truck for his birthday, which became a sentimental symbol, appearing in both music videos and social media posts. Beyond that, Blake also owns a Gulfstream G450 jet worth over $40 million. Not as a status symbol, but as a way to shorten trips between Oklahoma and Los Angeles, maximizing his time with family. Blake Shelton is wealthy and successful, but what sets him apart from many stars is how he manages his fortune. Rather than flaunting it, he invests long-term, grows his brand, and maintains a lifestyle rooted in his hometown values. It is this balance between Hollywood glamour and Oklahoma dirt that defines his way of life. At once, lavish and down-to-earth, an international star, yet still the hometown boy from Ada in the eyes of his people. Legacy and influence. Blake Shelton's legacy cannot be confined to statistics or the trophies displayed in glass cases. It lives in the way he made country music accessible even to audiences who had never listened to it before. His warm, unpolished voice became the doorway for a new generation of listeners to discover a genre long dismissed as Southern and regional. The songs he brought forth, sometimes sorrowful like a confession, sometimes playful and mischievous, turned everyday stories into music, where people could easily see their own lives reflected. Blake didn't keep country music within its traditional boundaries. He carried it beyond Nashville. His enduring presence on The Voice for more than a decade helped make him a bridge between country artists and mainstream global audiences. There, he was not just a coach with multiple wins, but the familiar face that convinced viewers that country was not distant. It could carry American identity while also being humorous, approachable, and universally relatable. His influence is also evident in the way he chose to live and shape his image. While many stars rely on mansions and luxury cars to assert status, Blake became known instead for his old pickup truck, his wide-open Oklahoma ranch, and the simple joys of family life. That lifestyle was more than a personal choice. It became a message. Fame does not have to strip away simplicity, and a superstar can still live like the neighbor next door. Community contributions form another cornerstone of his legacy. From generous donations to children's hospitals, support for veterans, to quiet acts of giving in his hometown, Blake consistently used his name to bring benefit to others. These steady gestures ensured that his image is tied not only to the stage, but also to compassion and a spirit of generosity. What makes Blake Shelton truly remembered is not just his chart-topping hits or award ceremonies, but his ability to make audiences believe in authenticity. He offered something rare in the entertainment industry: empathy. Every song he sang, every story he told, carried the feeling that no matter who you are or where you come from, you could find in it a piece of your own pain, joy, or longing. And that is his most enduring legacy, one not written on certificates, but living in the memory and emotions of millions. Present life. By 2024, Blake Shelton was no longer a constant presence on television as he had been during his peak years on The Voice, yet he continued to maintain a strong place in music and public life in his own way. After officially signing with BMG in 2024, Blake released the single Texas, a song steeped in traditional country, evoking his Oklahoma roots and the simple values he has always carried. The track was more than just a comeback. It was a statement that even though he had stepped away from television, music remained the center of his life. That return carried into 2025 with the release of the album For Recreational Use Only in May. The collection revolves around themes of family, love, and the quiet peace of everyday life, perfectly reflecting the mature and reflective stage he is now living. Critics praised it as one of Shelton's most authentic works, unpolished, trend-defying, and more like slices of real life turned into melody. That same year, Blake surprised fans with a return to The Voice. This time, no longer as a coach, but as a special guest performer, he took the stage to sing Texas. The moment stirred nostalgia for longtime viewers and reminded everyone that, even after leaving the show, Shelton still shares a close bond with the place that once made him a household name. On the live stage, he launched the Friends and Heroes Tour 2025 with shows across the American South and Midwest, regions that have always been the heartbeat of country music and where Shelton has his most loyal following. The tour wasn't just a reunion with longtime fans, but proof that he remains a commanding live act, capable of filling venues with nothing more than his voice and natural charm. Beyond performing, Blake expanded into television again with a new CBS project, The Road, a talent competition dedicated to discovering country artists. The show was both a tribute to his own journey from Ada, Oklahoma to Nashville, and an opportunity to pass the torch to a younger generation. Here, Blake was not just a storyteller, but also a mentor, creating a platform for those carrying the same dreams he once had. Alongside his entertainment ventures, he continued to manage and grow his Ole Red restaurant and bar chain, venues blending food and live music, employing hundreds, and serving as small stages for young artists to prove themselves. For Blake, this was more than business. It was a way of giving back to the music community and the places that shaped him. Still, Blake's present life has not been without shadows. Since late 2024, media outlets have repeatedly reported on cracks in his marriage to Gwen Stefani. Sources claimed the two rarely lived together, Gwen primarily in Los Angeles, focusing on her fashion and music projects, while Blake spent most of his time at the Oklahoma ranch. Though they have never confirmed separation or divorce, their absence from events together has fueled rumors of a growing distance. Shelton has remained silent, perhaps as a way to protect his privacy and avoid turning his family into tabloid fodder. For fans, however, Blake Shelton's image today has shifted. He is no longer the joking weekly fixture on NBC, but a middle-aged man who has chosen a slower life, returning to his roots, devoting time to music and family. He continues to affirm that wealth, fame, and awards mean little compared to living truthfully. As a country artist, tied to the land, to his people, and to the most authentic values he holds dear, Blake Shelton's life is not just the journey of a small-town boy who rose to global country stardom. It is proof of the power of knowing when to change. He didn't end his career after stepping away from television, nor did he let rumors or personal failures define him. Instead, Shelton chose to keep moving forward with new music, community-focused business ventures, and a simple yet fulfilling life in Oklahoma. In his 40s, he no longer chases the perfection of the spotlight, but finds value in quieter moments, writing songs on his ranch, sharing the stage with longtime friends, or quietly supporting charitable causes. This calm resilience has made him a different kind of role model in an entertainment industry often defined by chaos. A man who chooses steadiness over noise, loyalty over trends. Today, Blake Shelton is more than just a name in country music history. He is living proof that success does not have to be loud. Sometimes an artist's greatest legacy isn't measured in records or awards, but in staying true to themselves and holding the trust of their audience through the decades. And what about you? Which image of Blake Shelton strikes you the most? The witty coach on The Voice, the country artist tied to the stage, or the simple man living quietly on his Oklahoma ranch? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss the real stories behind the spotlight.